So for this year's International Women's Day, we decided to look at the future of women in tech and how we can navigate opportunities and challenges. I have known Joyce for quite a long time. We met while I was still in school, and she was such a brilliant person. And I have always been inspired by the work she's doing in tech. Joyce was a pharmacist when I knew her, and now she's a tech sis, doing great things in tech and with the Instagram
Please, I'm still a
community.
pharmacist. I'm still a
Okay,
pharmacist.
Joyce is
Don't
still
worry, don't
Joyce is still a
training.
pharmacist. She's still a pharmacist that is now in tech and is breaking every barrier. I am so proud of her. Like every time I see anything about Joyce, I tweet, I'm liking, I'm loving because Joyce is amazing. She's amazing, and the work she's been doing has been profound. So I'm so glad to have her. When I was told that we're having this, I'm like, yes, I get to talk with this babe. So she's a programs manager with over 5 years of experience in designing and leading programs across tech, health, and social impact industries. So many of our programs are focused on inclusion, diversity, and development of young people, especially women and girls. And these align seamlessly with what we do at Askilos. Our programs are designed and focusing just on women and girls, but especially youth. All right. So it's profound to have someone whose goals and work so far aligns with what we do here. But through this period, she has worked extensively with local and international organizations on significant projects that have impacted over 10,000 beneficiaries. And that's not a small number. It's not, and these are direct beneficiaries, right? A majority of them are women and girls. And currently, she is an advisory committee member for the Free STEM Fund by Women Win, an international women's fund focused on increasing STEM education and tech skills for women and girls across different regions in the world. She's also the founder and team lead at Inspiring Women in Tech Community. See, Inspiring is her baby project, but it's one of the best I've seen. And I've seen people who are part of the community doing great things. I'm not even joking. So if you want, I'm sure she would share a link for how to join. Unfortunately, I have coconutted. I can't seem to take in tech. So I don't know. Maybe I should just join to be happy people that are there. And this community has provided over 3,000 women and girls with opportunities to upskill and build sustainable tech careers. Joyce is deeply interested in and involved in the development of a more diverse African tech space, especially for African women and girls. And she shows this through her works and platforms. Thank you for joining us, Joyce, and thank you for agreeing to do this with us. We are so grateful to have you. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for the opportunity as well. I think it's always like will I say an honor or a privilege whenever there are opportunities like this to, talk with organizations like yours that have very aligned, would I say passions or goals. So it's really an honor on my end also. So thank you too for inviting me.
All right. We are grateful to have you. Although it might be an honor to you, to me, I am the most excited person. I'm like, yes, let's get this done. So this this laptop wants to shame me. But yeah, let's get into it. We have some of our students from Coders. As Franklin has explained, Coders is a project that we do where we train women from indigent communities, disadvantaged women specifically, hands-on training for them to go into tech. This is for them to achieve economic empowerment and also like bridge the gender gap in the tech community. The difference between Coders and every other tech training that exists is that we are not necessarily looking at people who have prior academic background or any tech skills. We start from digital literacy. We start from the basics, right? Teach them how to start the computer, everything, and then get to learning the tech skills that they feel they are interested in. And at the end, they build their most viable product to show what they have learned. And so from the Coders program, we pivoted to so many other programs that we do, where we have people who have learned the skill through the Avocados training to get better skills and build products, viable products, scalable products. And so that's what we do. That's like majorly the work we do when we come to tech. Of course, we also work in governance, and that's a whole different conversation. Today, we are focusing on tech. So, my first question to you would be: what motivated you to pursue a career in tech, and how has that motivation evolved over time?
Okay, so for me, I think my very first motivation was really more like a challenge. So I was in pharmacy school. I had the opportunity then to volunteer with an NGO, and we had a lot of data we had to work with. And then there was this time they were like, oh, let's do some literature review on a certain topic that centered around women and girls, obviously. And we went online and there was no data in Nigeria. I think Nigeria and Africa generally, we have like a very serious data problem. We do not have
Yeah, we
available
do.
data. We do not have like data to support some of the work that we do. And that was like my first interaction. So it meant that there was a gap, there was a data gap, and I could fill that gap. But then that was like the first, will I say call to action or the first interaction I had with something related to tech. Now, fast forward one plus about 2 years later, I see that some of my male friends are now, by the way, myself and my God,
Oh, you can call me
Obianike,
Black Queen. Feel free.
because we know her as Black Queen. We were part of the Nigerian University Debate Society. So in my school, then I see that some of my male friends are now going into tech, and there is a crazy talk about all the benefits of tech. I see one of us, Dominion, already putting together like a game development career, and I'm like, okay, what
Yeah.
what is tech, and what can I really do within this industry? I'm a pharmacist. I do not want to be a store pharmacist. I do not want to be a regular pharmacist that you just, come to for advice. I want to be something much more than that. And then I put two and two together and I realized that, I've had like first interaction with data. I could actually start from that point. And that was like one of the very first things that spurred me into action and, pushed me to get into the tech field. Now, something that has kept me going, I would say, has been the fact that I do not want to be a regular pharmacist. Right now, I would say my career is like 60 to 70%, no, 80% tech and 20% pharmacy. But the motivation has always been I don't just want to be an ordinary person. I want to have like the opportunity to explore all the benefits of being in this world and, positioning myself in a field that doesn't just have like promise of good returns, would I say financially or good rewards, but a field that is in tune with what is going on in the world right now. And I see that tech is that field, or would I say the tech industry is that field. But ultimately, I'm hoping that I would be able to combine pharmacy and tech at some point and just build a career out of that. So I would say that has been like my motivation and how it has evolved and something that constantly keeps me going beyond the initial point where I started from.
Okay, that's amazing. And yes, I think that was in 2019 that the rave with tech started within the debate community, and
Exactly.
I did the start NG training. I tried to do the Code Africa, some of their trainings, and I just found that some of us doesn't really have the knack for tech. That's the truth. Some of us
Exactly.
just
It's
don't.
fine.
So even though I could do some things, I even passed the projects I started at NG, but like I wasn't passionate about it. It wasn't where my passion was. So I just learned it for learning's sake, but not because I want to um continue with it. But I'm so impressed with you continuing with it. And you're right, there's a dearth of data in Africa. Nigeria is even the worst because so many times when we are doing research for our projects and you want to quote data about like um gender imbalance and all of that. And the data is so poor. Even within the
So
governance
poor.
sector, you find that you don't even have the correct numbers. So many times we say, oh, there are 3% women in politics now. Actually, it's less than that because a lot of women lost their seats at the last election. So we can't keep on saying it's 3%. And this was based on the research that was done by the UN months, last 3 years. It's obviously obsolete by now, and there's no new people like doing all of that. So I totally
Exactly.
understand the
Okay,
passion coming from there.
let me
Okay,
just
sure.
add a bit to that
Hmm.
conversation. So
Yeah,
for the data issue, it's very sad because the data that we currently work with, that most of us within say Nigeria and Africa currently work with when we talk about tech is global data. So we say that 28 to 30% of the women and girls of the tech jobs of or the tech industry is occupied by women and girls. And this data doesn't really trickle down to Africa, where there are so many things that limit the participation of women and girls within tech. So for instance, I
exactly.
would say it's not up to 10 years that people started opening their minds that oh, girls can actually be engineers. So you see that when you compare the ratio of women to men who are engineers, say go to 10 years, 5 years back, you see that it's sad because I remember when my sister was getting into school and she wanted to do petroleum engineering, and one of our neighbors was like, why do you want to do something
Okay.
that's something that a guy should be doing? And I'm like, this was less than 10 years ago. So you see that when you compare the data that the world is talking about and African data, I hope that someday we really get the actual data because it's a very sad situation. Now, the second thing I
Um,
wanted to chip into is that
yeah.
not everybody has interest in, going into tech, but we must recognize the fact that the world is becoming technologically advanced, or the world is
Mm-hmm.
driving towards being well, I say technologically driven. So what this means is that you don't have to go into core tech for you to be tech savvy, right? Because in whatever field you
Mm-hmm.
find yourself, you now start seeing like tech having footprints there. So I'm a pharmacist. There's now the use of tech within the pharmacy practice. So I can say I'm
Mm-hmm.
a pharmacist and I know some parts of tech that relates to my profession, but then I'm not like fully into the tech industry. And that's very okay because I want to still be a pharmacist, but I want to be able to apply some tech principles in the work that I do. So not everybody would have the passion to go full on into tech. But in whatever field that you are, you're a programs manager. You work with Excel a lot because I'm a program manager and I know that. And that's also tech. So it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
software engineering or product design or product management for you to actually be a tech person. It's just the trend of the world, and you just need to, enter the line
Yeah.
or align with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Tech has now permeated every aspect of our life. And with the advent of AI, we find everybody using it. And yeah, that's tech. And maybe at some point, I will find a part of tech that is for me. Maybe I chose the one I chose because it was well popular back end, front end. Everyone wanted to do full stack developer, and I was interested. But I joined for the wrong reasons, of course. So I am someone that works with passion. When my passion could not sustain it, I had to just leave it. But yeah. So the next question would be for me, were there any mentors or role models who played a significant role in your career journey? And if so, how did they impact your trajectory?
Oh, yes, I had mentors, but in the beginning, I didn't have mentors. And that was like what motivated me to start Insomnia. So I'm starting out in tech. I'm in my final year in pharmacy school, and I'm looking around to see female pharmacists that have interest in tech, and I couldn't find anybody. So
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, it was difficult because I didn't have people to look up to. I didn't know who, there's this thing with someone that looks like you doing what you're doing that sort of inspires you. So there were guys around me, which was great because some of them were my friends. I could lean on to them for advice. But I really wanted to see. So I'm a woman and I have like my peculiarities. I have, things that other women can relate to. So if I see a woman doing what I'm doing, it sort of gives me, especially an older woman or someone that has been in the field before I came in, it sort of gives me some confidence that, okay, I can actually do this. So in the beginning, I would say I didn't exactly have mentors, and this had
Mm-hmm.
a lot of effect on my career. And one of those was that um guys, just give me a minute. I don't know why someone is going. So one of the
No problem.
okay. So one of the effects that had on my career was it sort of staggered my learning process because something I would have learned in say 1 year, it took me almost 2 years to learn because I started from, I went to the tech industry as a data analyst. So give me a moment, please.
No problem.
I'm so sorry about that. A call came in and I couldn't knock because the
No,
person was calling
that's
more.
fine. That's
Okay,
fine.
so I was saying that that sort of staggered my growth or my journey. So I came in as someone wanting to learn data because that was my first exposure to tech, and I started
Mhm.
learning from Python. I didn't go through Excel. So you see that by the time I realized that there was an actually pathway, time had gone, and if I had a mentor at the beginning part of my career, it would have been easier. But then that's like the beginning part, but it
Mhm.
got better. So say 1 year, 2 years after that, I started, I left school, I had finished school, I started seeing more people like me who were in the industry, and I saw a pharmacist who was into data. So I just, latched onto her immediately. And that was how the journey began. And since then, I've had like multiple people, both close mentors, people that, guide me personally,
Mhm.
and people that I connected with online that have played huge roles as mentors and have, guided me, provided, career advice, provided me with resources that have, helped me scale beyond the beginning.
Mhm.
I would say
Mhm.
like my very first international gig was from one of my mentors, and she just posted it into our group, and they're like, "Oh, you can apply," and then that was it, and then I got it. So I've had people really positively impact my journey, and for that I'm
Mhm.
really, really grateful. Even if in the beginning it was rough because I didn't have them at the time, but as I progressed, it got easier. I think exposure also brought me to people and brought people to me. And then we just hit it off as mentor mentee. And from there, it's been like an upward journey.
Okay. So are you taking mentees? Because I want to apply to be a mentee. How was the application process?
Okay,
Okay.
I actually have a big project this April, this March. Would I say March, April? A personal project that I'm handling. Um, Black Queen, I'll be in your DM after this to tell you what it's about. So
Okay, no
after that,
problem.
I would open myself up to mentors because I've had a couple of people reach out to me that, oh, I want to start in tech. What do I do? And I think I could provide some guidance, maybe for a few weeks,
Mhm.
just something small or a small cohort of people to just, be an accountability partner to them and just mentor. So I would say not now, but maybe sometime in the future soon, actually.
I know. I am of the opinion that mentorship is not necessarily about people becoming you. It's about helping people become the best of themselves. So um, I don't think that mentorship should be as hands-on as we make it about in Nigeria. People want as their mentor, they want their mentor to check in on them and be their accountability partner. No, your mentor is not
Yeah,
that.
24 hours a
Supposed to be,
day, 7 days a week.
your mentor is supposed to be the person you reach out to when you have a roadblock and not when you have a stump on the road. No. When army block road, you decide to call your army friend, right?
Exactly.
That's a different thing. But you don't call your army friend when you see some security guards blocking you. You can ask them, why are you blocking you? Can I pass? And just pass, you are asking for ID cards, you show. So that's why I think mentorship should be about. So yeah, sure. That's by the way. I'm just pulling your leg by the way. So, but
That's
I want to know because in your conversation you talked about looking for people who looked like you, and you didn't see them at the beginning, and it's impacted. And also you talked about how um finding data for women was very poignant in you going into tech. So I want to know in what ways do you think your unique perspectives and reality as a woman has influenced your approach to problem solving within the tech industry?
okay. So I would say this is generally as a woman, I think women have this very inquisitive attitude towards life. This is generally. And that is something that can be very, very handy within the tech industry. So you always want to know, you're always curious, and it leads you to learning a lot. It leads you to always trying to find like solutions to problems. For me, I'm a big, big person on. I'm a big person on. I'm very, very interested in solving problems, even within my house. So something is going on, and the first question I'm asking is that, so what can we do? I'm not interested in the emotions of things, or I'm interested in the emotions of things. Don't quote me wrong. But what I'm saying is, beyond emotions, I'm always looking for ways, to solve problems. And I think women are like great problem solvers because they're very inquisitive. They're very curious and they always want to know what is going on and they want to always find like better ways of doing things. So this is something that plays a huge role in, their participation within the tech industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it makes them, stand out, especially those that actually decide to put in the work. It sort of makes them stand out and influences their growth and their commitment or whatever within the tech industry. So I would say one of the features, or would I say one of the attributes of myself as a woman, or people that I have seen that have really succeeded in tech as women, is that inquisitive nature. We always want to know, and with knowing comes the quest for knowledge. So you want to know, you want to research, you want to find better ways of doing stuff, and it actually puts you at an
Mm-hmm.
advantage. And please, I know there are guys on this call. I'm not saying you guys are not inquisitive because it shouldn't even be a debate. But I'm just saying generally that inquisitive nature sort of opens them up to better learning opportunities, the quest to just want to solve problems. So I would say that is something that has, as a woman, that has contributed to. I hope I'm answering that question correctly. That has
Yeah, because
contributed to, yeah.
the question was just answering correctly because the question is how your unique perspective and reality as a woman affects your problem solving, and you did say
Yeah,
using your intuition is one of them. So yeah,
yeah,
and your inquisitiveness.
yeah. So I
That's
think
great.
the next thing I would say is that when you walk into a room and you're like two women or 15 in a room of 15 people and you're like the second woman or you're the only woman there, it sort of backs up the need for you to perform because you know that
Mm-hmm.
you cannot be found slacking. You cannot be found slacking because there is a tendency for them to rule you out. Oh, now Masha, it's expected. So there is this it sparks up the need for you to perform. Sometimes you even overperform because you're trying to prove a point that I deserve to be at the table. So that unique perspective, although it has the bad sides because you're required to put in say double the work sometimes because you're trying to prove a point in a room just so that people know that you deserve a table at the room. But it also means that you're always, on your feet. You're not found slacking. So that unique perspective is something that I know has also, largely contributed to my success, and I would say success of women also around me that are into the tech industry. Intuition,
Mm-hmm.
their curiosity, their ability to always be inquisitive, and then finally the need to prove a point because
Mm-hmm.
you're in a room where, come on, you have to prove a point to remain in the room. You don't just have your foot in the door anymore. You have to prove a point. You have to show that I'm not just here for diversity higher reasons. I'm here because I actually
Mm-hmm.
deserve a seat at the table. So these unique perspectives and these general attributes of women, I think, are things that have actually, contributed to my success and the success of many women that I have around me who are currently within the tech industry.
Mm-hmm. I think that on the conversation about diversity hire or inclusivity hire, I mean, especially with the theme of this year being to invest in women and all, um, I'm always like curious when we talk about women in tech, right? And I mean, just last month we had some couple of men screaming at UN women, screaming at different organizations for giving more access and more opportunities to women. So we have that, and while we know that Nigeria has a high rate of misogynists around, especially even in professional settings, how do you navigate this to then not be overcompensatory? What I mean is that, like you said, you have to prove a point, but do you also like sometimes check yourself and say, well, these men, I'm not trying to prove a point. What am I trying to? I am okay. I am enough, and I am deserving of the role that I have. How do you like balance the two? Proving that I'm good enough and saying I
And
am
not
not here to prove anything.
overcompensating.
I'm good enough
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, overcompensating. How do you do that?
Okay, so I think it takes a very high level of self-awareness for you to do that. You need to know who
Mm-hmm.
you are. You need to recognize your authentic self, and you need to be that authentic self all the time. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot go into a room. First of all, I believe in excellence. If you work
Mm-hmm.
closely with me, you know that I'm someone that is very big on excellence. I'm big on excellence because I do not want someone to say that you failed at this because you did not do your job well. So I will do what I'm supposed to do. Let it be that all things were not equal, and then things did not play right into like my favor. But
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness. So you have to know who you are. You have to always be your authentic self. Do not go there
Mm-hmm.
to try to use this very great vernacular word to asleek. You're going there to do your job, and you do your job, do it so well that they cannot dispute the fact that you're good. And that
Mm-hmm.
comes a high level of, putting a lot of work to be a better version of yourself all the time. That now is not overcompensation because you are doing the actual work and you are doing the work well. You're doing the work so well, the way it is supposed to be done, that people cannot look at you and say it is because you do not do the work well. That is why this or that happened. So there is no excuse from their end to jab at you or to, say nasty things to you. But then for managing overcompensation, you need to also understand boundaries within the workplace. You need to understand the politics of things within your workplace. You need to understand, you know, the scope of your JD sometimes. Because, when you walk into a room, you're the only woman or the second woman in the room, and there are a lot of guys. There's a need, or there is this natural instinct for you to, show them that, come on, I am the next best thing after sliced bread, although sliced bread is not the best thing on my list. Though. I'm the next best thing after porridge yam. I'm the next best thing. But you need to understand boundaries. You need to know when to draw the line. You need to know when to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's where self-awareness comes in. You know that you are good at this job. You know that whatever it is you're doing, they cannot come and jab at you that it is because you are not good. That is why it is happening. So you act in that self-awareness and you show them the conversations you have with them should show that. Because when it shows that, you see that there's no need for you to overcompensate. You don't need to do 200 times what you're supposed to do for them to actually
Mm-hmm.
see that you are doing and putting in the work. So for me, I would say rather that self-awareness, know who you are and show up as your authentic self. Don't show up as a timid person. Don't show up as someone that is trying to a person. Okay, yeah, at work you're trying to please your boss, but don't show up as someone that is always willing to, fall into the trap of being a people pleaser. But most importantly, be excellent at your work. Be excellent at your work because that is where the fine line is. You're excellent and you know that you're not doing this because you want to asleep, but you're doing it because you are actually good. And then draw boundaries and let them
Okay.
know where the boundaries are.
Okay. Okay. Um, so in when we talk about tech and women in tech, right, there is this tendency to say, oh, they go for the easy tech, the product design, the data analysis. Even though I don't think data analysis is easy or data science, I think data science and data analysis is actually quite difficult. But we have like all those kind of conversations. So when you want to hear the full stack developer, and if your woman is a full stack developer, everybody's like, oh my god, she is the holy grail and all of that. I wonder, like, your opinion on issues like this. What do you think that women can do to, I mean, and this is problematic for me because I've seen a girl that was quite interested in back end, and literally, like in the same class, a guy is telling her that that thing is too hard for women. No. How do we begin to encourage young girls to pursue their desired career in STEM fields? Because it's not enough to get them into STEM. It's for them to go for the one they want. Because STEM is broad. Tech is broad. There are so many parts to it that people should ideally pursue. How do we encourage young girls to take a chance and succeed or fail at something without necessarily feeling less or feeling that they are over? Like you said, your sister wanted to go for petroleum engineering and someone is telling her that it's for men, right? It happens even within the tech space where women have already broken into and are being told that this role or this course or this tech skill is mostly dominated by men. How do we break the glass ceiling inside the glass? I don't know, but I'm hoping you get what
Yeah,
I
I
mean.
I
Like
think I get
we
your
are in,
question.
but we also want to enter inside the other part of it. Yeah.
So I think the first mistake many people make is to think that because people are women, because you're a woman, you cannot do certain things. And over again, they've been proven wrong. So you see what is happening in the school system. Girls are topping the class. Girls are topping the
Of
class and are
course.
doing so well because girls are smart. They can be smart. So why would you say, oh, that you're not you're They feel like your brain is not supposed to handle some level of complexity, which is not true, because time and time again, we've seen women, especially within the tech industry, that have actually, gone ahead to do the hard stuff and succeed at doing the hard stuff. So I would say the first thing is that's like, aside what I've just said, the first thing on, or my first solution or my first suggestion on how we can actually, make the process easier and make women and girls, or girls, realize that, see, you can do this stuff, is mentorship. You have to talk to them always, because it's like social engineering. Because of the society we grew up in, some people are wired to think that they cannot do certain things. And that is reaffirmed every day when they go out on the street. For instance, someone is in a coding class and they're telling them that they cannot do back end. So that is the society we find ourselves. And there's nothing you can do about that. But you cannot change people's perspective about yourself, but you can change your perspective about what you do. You should know your capacity, you should know what you can do, and just go for it. But then that level of awareness comes through mentorship. So for instance, somebody is telling her that you cannot do back end, and there's someone there telling her that, see, you can do back end because I have done it and I have succeeded. So the first thing is that people who have succeeded in those roles, they have to come up and talk about it. And I know that there is a tendency for them to shy away, or they don't want attention to be drawn towards them, that they have succeeded in certain areas, and they sort of shy away from exposing themselves too much. But come on, putting yourself out there is inspiration to a lot of people to know that they can actually do stuff. They can do back end, they can do software dev, they can do whatever it is that they choose to do. So that is the first thing. So we need to see more people come up to talk about what they do, what they have achieved, and how more women and girls can actually go on to achieve all of that. The second thing is a bit harder, because it's going to take a lot of social engineering to change the perspective of people, especially within our society, that these people can actually do this thing. But social engineering is actually a very slow, slow process. But we need to see more advocacies. We need to see. That's why I think that, especially in Africa, in Nigeria that we are in, you cannot talk enough about the need for there to be, increased participation of women in STEM or in tech. We have to constantly talk about it. There has to be advocacies around that. There has to be, projects that support that. And I don't care if someone sees it as you trying to be, patronizing, or someone is calling it affirmative action. That is a very funny argument whenever I hear it. But
the argument of affirmative action is silly.
Exactly. We need to constantly talk about it. So you're telling me that, that a guy is so there's this conversation that came up on Twitter recently about, I think that was the conversation we were talking about, when they were lambasting the UN, and they were like, that there are too many opportunities for women. And I just asked myself a simple question. If you say there are too many opportunities for women, and you come into, for instance, the tech field, and you're trying to do a matchup, and there are 90 men against 10 women, are there really opportunities for women, or are women actually participating in those opportunities? And if you say the opportunities, if you say the opportunities, and then when you come into the actual field, you find that there is still a large gap. Why is there and bias? So why is there still that large gap? What can you do to solve the problem? And advocacy is one of that. Engage government bodies, engage people that matter to talk about these issues, to talk about them on social media, to talk about them like everywhere, so that people start coming into the awareness, or they start getting aware of the fact that, this thing we have known for a long time might not actually be true. The world has changed beyond what it was to something even better. And for us to, enjoy the full benefits of this new world, we have to open up ourselves to, accept more women and girls into these kinds of spaces. So mentorship is something I've talked about. I've talked about, advocacy, engaging women and girls. I would say the final thing is community. Now, mentorship and advocacy and all of those are external things that maybe people that are not even women can do to see that more women get into tech. But building active communities where these women feel safe to, express themselves, and where they're not going to be shushed for trying to be what they want to be. Where they're not going to be shushed, I want to be a software engineer. Come on, you're a woman, you shouldn't be a software engineer. No. there should be communities that, cater to women like that, that tell them daily, that affirm to them all the time that, come on, you can be what you want to be. You don't have to be limited by the society you find around you. Like, for me, for instance, for this International Women's Day, I'm like, do not conform. Conform not. Be disruptive. Most of my posts, I've been
Exactly.
saying be disruptive. Like, you conform, you lose out because
Mm-hmm.
you in the end, it's about self-fulfillment, right? And in the end, if you're not able to, fulfill your purpose or do what you really want to do, it means that there's something that is trapped and that would
Mm-hmm.
never get out there. So there has to be communities that would constantly affirm to these women that you can be disruptive and it is okay to be disruptive, even when it is, outside the norm of things or outside what people know. So yeah, so I would say community, using communities to drive the conversations and to, draw women together to drive the change that we want to see. Also, advocacies and projects, not just going to take megaphones and say, oh, we want more women in tech. Do the actual work to ensure that more women get into those roles. You're a company, you say you're celebrating IWD, and on your engineering team, you don't have any woman, but there are qualified women out there. Intentionally open up the roles to
I think
women
you're
to come
answering my
in.
next question already. You're answering my next question because I wanted
So
to ask you how companies can create a more supportive and inclusive environment for women in tech, in their tech
so
roles.
this morning I put up a post and I'm like, the IWT hype is coming down. It is now time to put in the work. And this post was inspired by something I saw online. On someone shared on Twitter, but I followed it up on LinkedIn. And the lady is like, I do not want to participate in the celebrations for this year for IWD, simply because there's too much hype around the day that we forget to actually do the work when the day has gone by. And I think that companies are the ones that are mostly at fault here. So they have like a great budget. They want to partner with women-focused organization so that on International Women Day, they get visibility that shows that, oh, they are inclusive or it's a very, very annoying thing to do.
Performative.
Then beyond that day you get very nice perks for your female staff. You have, talks, you take them on trips. But beyond that day, the work environment is not inclusive. A pregnant woman is asked to leave her job because she's pregnant when she can actually still perform. I'm not saying, oh, you should push yourself and die because you're trying to do your job. No. She's pregnant, she can actually perform, but you're like, no, you think she's pregnant and she should leave the job. So these are the issues. If these are not corrected, if companies cannot have like very inclusive policies that, allow proper participation of women within their organization, then all of the IWD hype is, very fertile. Now, another thing they can do is, and I'm going to say this again, quote me anyway, I don't care if you think it's affirmative action, you have to employ women. You cannot keep saying, oh, I'm trying to be inclusive, and there is no woman on your team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this because many times they'll be like, what if a man is, qualified and a woman is qualified, but you have 10 men on the team already? What happens to bringing in a qualified 11th person who is a woman to the team? So you have to open yourself up to employing people okay, you preach, you keep saying, no, I want to be diverse, I want to be an inclusive environment with good work culture, but you have to open yourself up to actually do the work. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there are so many things within organizations that you can do. I've talked about employment. I've talked about, company policies. Company culture is a thing. When women talk in
Mm-hmm.
rooms, how do you react? Do you, shush and say, who be this one where they talk?
Listen.
So these are the conversations that need to be had. Companies need to start having these internal, considerations to understand that whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, regardless of your gender, whatever it is you are, there is space for you here, and we are willing to listen to you. And I think that's like the ultimate culture, work culture that would enable more women to work within like your organization. So, for instance, because I know that this is a very, very deep government conversation, a woman gives birth, and after 3 months, she has to drop her newborn at home because she has to go to work. And it's great because she has to build a career. But what happens to having, say, if you can afford it as an organization, having, say, in-house nurseries so that maybe during breaks they can go cater to their children? So it's a deep-seated conversation. It's not something that, and I think many of the decision making is even beyond us as organizations. It's about, the government actually doing something to entrench certain values so that, see, when the government
I agree.
is big on enforcing those decisions or enforcing the things that need to be done, companies would naturally conform because you're working within an environment that is controlled by a government. So you have to pay attention to the rules and the regulations of that place. So companies can do a lot. Now, the final thing I want to say is that the CSR budgets that companies have, where does it go to? Like, where does it go to? Like, you have CSR budgets, and in the end, you just use it to do white elephant projects that nobody really cares about. So you need to start directing funding. This year is about investing in women beyond just inspiring inclusion. You have to invest in women, and
Mm-hmm.
investments are monetary more than, there's the human part of investment, but the monetary
But
part
we
of
are
it.
tired of capacity trainings. We want you to make your
We are
money.
tired of, let us hop on Zoom to talk about this. We want you to put your
Your
money where your
money.
mouth is. So you say, oh, I want
Exactly.
more women in tech. So you have to sponsor trainings. You have to work with organizations that are already within the field to say, okay, we want to sponsor 100 women to get trained within within tech, and after training, we offer them internships and possible jobs within our organization. So the CSR projects, you need to now start allocating part of your CSR projects or budgets rather to those kinds of initiatives, because imagine we have 100 organizations supporting the training of 10,000 women every year within Nigeria alone in tech. It's going to do a lot to ensure that more women get into tech and more women can continuously participate. Because one thing is to get the knowledge of, say, I want to go into tech. Another thing is, being able to sustain the drive and grow beyond the initial contact with tech. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And this might be the last question. I'm shocked. Adora is not yet in the call, but like this question is important to me. I think I'm going to be asking from a personal perspective. So a lot of times we see people say women are stuck up. The tech culture is a bro culture where you can see your bro and be rude or be humorous in some ways. And sometimes they say, oh, she can't play. She doesn't know how to play. If you touch her now, she say you're sexually harassing her and all of that. How can companies ensure that like this? Because yeah, a lot of companies have, well, a lot of male-led companies have claimed that that's the reason why they don't hire women, because of the dicey nature of having women within companies, and it pulls a damper on the work culture when work culture is benevolent misogyny, of course. So I'm like, how do we navigate this? And also the second question, and this is from what you said before, is about benevolent misogyny. And it's Jemima that gave you this name, where you feel like I am trying to be nice to you, and so I'm denying you of opportunities because I'm looking out for you. How do you navigate these two things? And it is rampant within the tech community.
Okay, so I think the reason why there is a bro culture within tech is because for the longest, it's just been the guys. And slowly women started trickling in. And obviously, when you're in a place where there is like an overwhelming presence of something, you have to conform to that. So you see that if you check very well, women that got into tech, especially maybe within the African space, say 10 years ago, many of them had very guyish attributes, but as time progressed, they understood that you can actually be a woman, you can be your authentic self and still participate within the tech industry. Now,
Mm-hmm.
for companies that say that women are stuck up and that's why we don't hire them, that's a very, I would say, very annoying argument, because like you should be able to establish boundaries and you should be able to have like an inclusive work culture. So if women, for instance, generally people say women are emotional, and you're in a space where a woman is, you have to put that into consideration that there's someone that might be emotional here, and we have to respect that aspect of her. You can't say that women are stuck up, and stuck up is that you're making jokes that are very nasty and she should just, laugh along. That's not how things are. You have to establish proper, and I think this is where companies have to play a huge role. You have to establish good working cultures within your community or within your organization, such that people are comfortable to work without feeling that I will be doing something and somebody will come and throw a nasty joke. Like people should be able to respect
Yeah.
people's confidence and people's like spaces. And the company is the enforcer of that rule. So the company can say, okay, so there's some if you say something and someone is not happy about it, you should know that that is something this person doesn't want to hear. And you should withdraw from saying that instead of saying, oh, I said something you don't want to hear. It's a very crazy argument. I said something you don't want to hear, and you tell me you don't want to hear it, and I go to say that because you do not want to hear it, it means that you're not fit for this organization. It doesn't make any sense. It's about respecting boundaries and respecting the interest and the uniqueness of people. So if a guy in the organization says that I don't like this joke, are you going to sack him, or would you not employ more guys because he's not comfortable with some jokes or some things that are thrown at him that he doesn't like? So these are conversations that we really should have. Companies should open up themselves to know that every individual, each gender, they have unique attributes, and there are things that you shouldn't be making a rape joke at work and expect that she should flow with it when she probably has some history, or she knows someone that has history. There are some things that shouldn't even be allowed in a workplace. Instead of you giving excuses for why you don't
I
want to
agree.
employ women, you should set up strict boundaries and build a good work environment that ensures that people respect other people. So that's what I would say, like, as a contribution to that question.
Okay. So is there any questions from anybody for Joyce? I know that Jennifer was so excited. She said, well said, Joyce, because this issue is something that I think that everybody must have had experience with, where you are being called a
And
diva.
yeah, and then another thing is also, I always encourage people to be very self-aware, know your what, know who you are. And I know sometimes it takes experience for you to actually realize that, but as much as possible, that should be like priority for you to know who you are before you go into a space. Because when you know who you are, you can speak up when certain things happen. If you do not
Mm-hmm.
know who you are, there's a tendency for you to just swallow everything. And people then think it is okay to continue doing that because they feel like your
I
silence is
agree.
some sort of like acceptance. So self-awareness is something that, especially within the tech industry that is male dominated, it feels like, oh, you're trying to be disruptive and you're going into a space where you don't have so many people like you. So you have to really be self-aware. Know who you are, do your work excellently so that nobody will come and throw jabs and tell you that it is because of this that this is happening. Do your job
Mm-hmm.
excellently, be up and doing. Do not be lazy. Do not think, oh, they hired me because I'm a woman. No, do your work well. Like, do your work well, because this is a complaint too that we have seen where they will say, oh, that's where the diversity hiring argument always comes in, that they will go and bring in people that are not fit for the job. So they should not be able to say that about you. They should be able to say, oh, this is a woman, but she's very fit and she knows her onion. So, but you also
Mm-hmm.
have to be self-aware, draw boundaries, like strict boundaries. There's some jokes that shouldn't be made in front of you. And I don't care if they see you as being stuck up. But trust me, they will never be able to let you go because you're so excellent at your job that there's nobody that can replace you. Even if they say people are
Exactly.
replaceable. But it's difficult to replace someone that gets the job done because of some argument
Mm-hmm.
that they are stuck up when certain jokes are thrown around. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So is there any questions from the audience? You can just unmute yourself and ask Joyce now that she's here. If you don't have any, my only question is, Joyce, how am I joining the community? And will you be holding my hands?
Okay.
Because that's
So
important. And how do I
the
get
thing is
funding?
the thing with
See?
communities is that many people join communities and they expect that they are going to be spoon fed. Like you talked about the mentorship
But
and the
that's what I'm
situation.
expecting now,
Oh no, you're
to
not
be
going to be spoon
spoon-fed.
fed. So the spoon feeding is that we would set you on the path, give you resources, open you up to opportunities. But in truth, whether it is within tech or whatever other field, in fact, in whatever it is you want to do, 70% of the time you have to put in the work. So
Yes,
you
you have
can
to
join
work
our
for it.
community, which is great, but you have to be active within the community. You have to engage within the community. You have to make good use of the resources that are being spoon fed to you. So you can join our community, definitely. So
Okay.
I would say you just I'm just going to put our name here on the chat so you can just follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter, and just interact with us first. That's go through our socials. So you are sure that you want to join. Because
Join, yeah, yeah, do
this
that.
year we are very big on curtailing the kind of people that join the community. Not because obviously we would have general programs, but when you talk about community should be very intimate, such that
Of people who
people that
are
are
the
there,
same
exactly, people that are
ideology.
there are willing to. So we are being very protective of the community this year. But I would say you should start from our social media. We put out a lot of resources on social media, and a couple of times
Mm-hmm.
we also have like invitations to join our community. So I would say we start from social media first. And yes, you could reach out to me personally on social media as well. And then we can start the conversation from there. My name is Joyce Wanochi on all my social media platforms. I am more involved in Twitter and
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. I'm not an Instagram buddy, unfortunately. I'm on Instagram, but I don't interact so much there. So LinkedIn, Twitter, you
Same
can
here.
always get my attention. But then I would put in the chats the community. And please don't think I'm trying to say you should not join my community, because we want the numbers, but we also want good numbers.
So Joyce, tell me, how do people get funding for tech centered initiatives? Not necessarily for me, for people who are on the call, because of course I
Mm.
know the whole idea of applying for grants and those parts, but are there specific ways people can get funding for tech centered initiatives outside of applying for
Um,
grants or donations from benevolent
yes,
Nigerians and
yes.
Africans and
So
international
what I would say to that is grants are like the number one go-to, but in reality, there are not a lot of grants that cater to the work that we do. We say, oh, we want to include more women and girls. So it is difficult for you to rely solely on grants for the work that you do. So another route that has worked for us and for me personally is partnerships. Like reach out to people online, tell them about your work, that we want to partner with you. Sometimes partnership is not even financial. Partnership can be human resources. For instance, you have these kinds of programs. You're bringing in Adora. Adora is one of the biggest tech influencers we have in Nigeria. So it sort of draws spotlight to your organization and you're able to get things done. So I would say partnerships. Now, partnerships not just on a vertical level where you're partnering with, a big organization, but peer partnerships, partnering with organizations like you or persons like you to carry out projects. Like last year, one of the projects we had for International Day of the Girl Child in October, we partnered with similar communities, similar communities like us. We partnered with She Code Africa, Lagos chapter, and then Code Vixen, and we had a lot of impact. It saved us money because if we had gone ahead to do that project alone, we would have spent the money the three communities put together. So partnerships with your peers, partnerships with people above you, and then grants, obviously. Grants. So partner, yes. And then as much as possible, so when you apply for grants, be careful to look for grants that focus on the work that you do. Because many times we feel like whenever there's a grant opportunity, just apply. When you apply anything, but I would advise
You could
that
be wasting a lot of energy on things that do not necessarily benefit you or may not get to you. Yeah.
exactly. So like be very strategic and be very, will I say, be smart about the opportunities you apply to. For instance, Women Wins Free STEM Fund, on which I'm one of the advisory committee members, is really focused on closing the gender gaps in STEM, tailored towards women and minority groups. So when that kind of opportunity comes up, you know that this is your niche. This is somewhere that you should be applying to. So as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible, try to seek out those kinds of opportunities where you stand a higher chance of getting the actual funding. But because we know grants are scarce and there are a million people looking for funding as we are, I would say go for local partnerships, local and international partnerships. Because many times when we talk of partnerships, we want to look for big brands that will give us money. Sometimes it could be partnering, for instance, you have a training program, you partner with a local startup. It's a startup that nobody even knows that can employ people that would finish from your program. It's impact because in the end, you train
True.
people, you're able to put them, in jobs because you have local startups that you have partnered with. This is something, this is supposed to be organizational secret, but it's something that has worked for us. Last year, after our program, we're able to give, I think, almost 10 people internships almost immediately because we partnered with local startups that were coming up that needed interns to help, build their organization. So partnerships, I'm very big on partnerships. So I would say partnerships and be open to non-financial partnerships and compensations as well. So yeah.
Thank you very much. One of our board members is on the call and she says, "Hi Joyce, my name is Jennifer. I'm a board member at Aspilos Foundation. No questions there. I just wanted to say thank you for honoring our invitation and speaking to the core issues. I thoroughly enjoyed your session and love the sincerity with which you spoke, especially about being excellent. And this like encapsulates everything I wanted to say about saying thank you to you for joining us and for speaking with us, sharing all of this. Thank you so much. Um, I'm so grateful to have you. I think that you've shared so much and that you have answered a lot of the poignant questions that we do get from people in our community, from people in our, who want to be part of our community. I'm grateful for that. And I'll be reaching out to you for partnerships and all. And I hope that, um, yes, did you drop the name of your community on the chat?
Yes, I did. I did. If
Abi,
someone
you
will
said,
check, yeah, I did. Oh, I
oh,
sent it as a direct
it's
message. My God, Zoom would
exactly
always
because it was
embarrass
not
me.
showing. Yeah, it's not showing.
Sorry about
So,
that. Zoom would always embarrass me. I'm a Google person,
okay. So now we
so
see
I've
it.
done that. Yeah, I was going to say I'm very open to
Yeah,
partnering with your organization as well. If there are programs we can talk about and just
yeah,
work on, that would be great.
yeah. We'll be reaching out for partnerships and all. And this is so painful, but Adora had an emergency and she has not been able to join. And I really can't keep you on the call for the next 1 hour while we wait for her. So thank you
Oh,
so much for
that's fine.
joining.
That's fine. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think it was a very nice conversation.
It
This
was.
is the ideal International Women's Day conversation where we are very real and we just talk about like real issues. So I really am happy that I was able to do this with your organization and with you,
Yeah,
Black
we're
Queen.
big on that at
Guys, ask her
Aspilus.
why they call her Black Queen. Ask her why they call her Black later, not here.
This
But
is not a story that anybody would hear.
but thank you so much. Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Yes. And at Aspilus, we are big on bringing your authentic self to work. We support people to be themselves as they are. That's why most of our conversations are very personal because we feel like, when we have all these very professional panel speaking and all, it's kind of,
I
I don't
get you.
know,
I
performative.
get it.
You don't get the impact you want to get from it. So we thank you very much. And so I'll be handing over back to Franklin to continue with his program. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. So, am I allowed to leave at this point?
No, you're not allowed to leave. Franklin wants to say something.
Okay.
Okay. Wow.
Franklin, please.
Thank you very much, Joyce, for this wonderful opportunity to interact with you. We are really, really, really grateful. Thank you very much. This was impactful. I know I'm the guy, but I learned some things I can apply to my own professional trajectory from this call. Thank you very much. We are grateful. So just a quick announcement. So we'll be having this call on our YouTube channel, just in case you want to reward, because this is an important conversation. And we can't allow it just slide like that. It's something I need to go out there. One of the conversation on yesterday's International Women's Day was the fact that every year we just have webinars, we just talk, and there's no trajectory, there's no
No
call to
action.
action, but no action. So, but this call, some of the things discussed here, especially on the fact that companies come around and they say, we're all for inclusion, this one, that one, include her, embrace equity, talks like that. And every year, just the same thing. But you made mention of the fact that if you want to have inclusion, why not in your engineering team? have a segment and say, okay, this role is for women. So these are conversations that need to go out there. So we'll be having this call on YouTube, so that this posted on YouTube, so that other people can engage as well. So our YouTube channel is Ask Pillows Foundation. Just Ask Pillows Foundation. We are the only one that have that in YouTube. So nobody has stolen our copyright yet. So